Hey, everybody. Thanks for listening to Raw Knuckles podcast. Please like, follow, and subscribe. Yeah. Honestly, that was like a bad car accident. I was above you, looking down. I was up in the press box when that happened. I
hammered him, though, didn't I, Knuckles?
Oh fuck,
yeah.
didn't you ever?
Fucking hammered him. You took his punch after. I know you just decided to punch you after. It was like, right? It's like, what the fuck
No, I didn't like him as a teammate, so that's probably why.
When I stepped on the ice, I never backed down, and I never stayed down.
And I was vicious, and I was malicious, and I don't care.
I'm alive. He's a freaking madman. Look at him going to town.
All right, Andrew, thanks for taking the time, pal. We really appreciate you coming on with us. And 31 years old, you retired 2 years now. What do you think? Well, what do you miss the most about the game playing in the NHL?
I got to go with the locker room, being around the guys every day. It's something you can't replicate in real life. You're hanging out with your buddies at work every day and you just horse around and have fun. So I think that's what I miss the most about the game. And blowing guys up center ice too. I don't mind. I miss that too.
You don't miss getting blown up though, right?
No. I like how my body feels these days. It feels.
I don't think I've ever blown up a guy in my career. I don't think I ever hit anyone and could say that. That's amazing. Are you?
I've done it accidentally on purpose. I've blown myself up. I've done it all.
So missing that game, and it's funny, like most people we have on, we ask that question and they all say the locker room. I think any guy who played any professional sport, when they have to leave that sport, that's what they miss the most. But, looking at your career and you're 31 and, you could still be playing the game. How you miss that, but the game itself, when you look back, the concussions, the way you played the game with such, determination, grit, not being the biggest guy out there. Did you ever, or were you ever approached by a coach or someone saying, listen, Andrew, I love the way you play, and I've heard people talk to Gallagher about this, but if you keep playing this way, you're not going to have a long career. Did anybody ever approach you about that?
I mean, Joel Quenneville told me I didn't need to fight as much as I did, but he respected me for doing so and respected me for, sticking up for my teammates. That was a part of me. It couldn't really turn that away. It was something bred in me. When I went to Montreal and I started getting through all my concussion issues, obviously I had some talks with the team doctors, the medical staff, Marc Bergevin as well. And they told me if this kept happening, I would have to end my career early. But and I tried to change the way I played, but like I said, it was bred in me. I couldn't not be physical. I couldn't not be on the forecheck. I couldn't not be in front of the net, going to those dirty areas, because that's what made me successful. That's where I had all my success. And to be honest, that's what I found fun about the game. Was that compete, that battle, that, that grind of physically pushing yourself and doing all those little things right. That was what I enjoyed about hockey. So when I went back to Chicago, they talked to me about trying to change the way I play, and I tried to, and I was fucking bored doing it. So yeah, I said, fuck it, went back to playing in your face hockey, and I had fun with it until the very end.
Is that what would you say that's what was like the biggest change in the game since you when you came in to when you left, is like less physical, more speed, or what was the biggest change? Was there any change?
I think, yeah. I mean, I came in 2011, 2012, pro hockey, and it was pretty tough. It wasn't as tough as, when Knuckles played, but it was still pretty tough. Guys finished their checks. There was a lot of scraps, but it was sucked to be a part of that game, because that's the game I love. And then to watch that fizzle out in hockey and not be there so much. I don't enjoy watching regular season hockey anymore. I only really enjoy watching playoff hockey.
So, and I second that one. There's no question about it. Regular season games can be so freaking boring, and then you watch the playoffs, and it all changes, and it resembles the game I think we grew up playing that we love, that physical game. Yeah, maybe not the fighting piece, but at least it gets more physical, more intense. So, looking back, say you grew up in Belleville, and that tough piece, that gritty piece, where does that come from with you? Does it come from the kids you grew up with, family at home? Where does that come from?
I got to go family, man. I grew up with two brothers. One's 2 years older than me, and my younger brother's 13 months younger than me. And my dad was, and my mom, they're both, boys will be boys. They're going to horseplay. They're going to play physical. They're going to have fun. They're going to hurt each other. They're going to fight. That was just our household. That's how we grew up. We were, 3 kids playing AAA hockey. It was quite chaotic, and it was a hell of a lot of fun. That's for sure.
Where does that, you wear that rubber bracelet, or you wore with the iron workers? What's that all about?
Yeah. Oh, my buddy was an iron worker and gave it to me, and he said, remember where you came from? My dad worked, he was a licensed carpenter, worked in construction his whole life, dragged me and my brothers to jobs, job site after job site. And, sorry guys. And, I don't know, that blue collar type of mentality, work hard, get paid for what you do, have pride in your work, even if it is a job in construction. I think that's society these days. No one has pride in that. There's a struggle to find anyone in the trade industry to work. But I think growing up with that mentality of the blue collar family, watching how hard my parents worked, it's just a little reminder of where I came from. Don't take your foot off the gas.
So that, and is there anything to do with superstitions there? Because apparently you had a few before the game. What was some of those superstitions you had before the game?
Stupidstitious is what we call it. I always same routine, warming up, playing some soccer, get the body moving, and then coming into the dressing room when everyone's starting to get dressed and dancing a little bit, jumping around in the locker room. Just kind of some fun stuff that kept the mood light, but helped me get prepared for my game as well.
You still have any of those today?
Stupidstitious? I have a routine where I wake up, we get the kids out the door to school, and I get in the gym 5 days a week still, just for mental health and physical health, really.
All right. You missed 2 drafts, right? And then you get drafted in the 5th round, 139th overall in 2011. When you were playing junior, did you expect to be drafted? And when you weren't, after missing those 2 drafts, did you get down? Did you say, am I gonna get a shot here? What's going on? What went through your mind?
To me, I think I had to play major midget. I got cut from the OHL my first year, got cut from the junior A team, and had to play major midget. And it was an awful year of hockey. And, I didn't play much, even though I was one of our better players. But I think that got me mentally prepared for the next step. Going into the OHL, I didn't play a lot of minutes my first year. I played, 6 minutes a night, and the only way I could stay in the lineup was if I, would fight the biggest guy on the other team. So I would do that. And then so I didn't get drafted as a 17-year-old. Didn't get much ice, so I didn't expect to get drafted. My next year, I was still in Niagara. Same thing. Wasn't getting much ice. The only way I could stay in the lineup is if I continued to fight. So I continued to fight. And then I went back. I got traded to Owen Sound, and I got a coach, Mark Reeds, and Terry Virtue. And he told me, I love how much of a rat you are. I love your intensity. I love you compete. So keep it up. Things will start to go your way. And he played me a lot. We had a good team. We won the OHL. I think I led our team points in playoffs. Went into the Memorial Cup. I led the Memorial Cup in points. And from that point on, I was expecting, to play one more year and go to school and use my school money to get a degree in something, I guess. And then after that Memorial Cup, it was like a few weeks later, the draft came on. I had a couple interviews with teams, and then Chicago ended up taking me. And from that point on, I knew I had a chance to play pro hockey. So I just really focused in on making sure I was mentally, physically prepared. Every shift I got, I made it like it was my last. I, put my body through the works just to get that chance. And when that chance came, I didn't look back. I made sure I was going to be remembered from my first game in the NHL, and I think I did a really good job of that. And Coach Q loved what I brought. And
wow,
next thing you know.
I find that interesting that you were thinking about going to college and not even having that dream of still getting to the NHL until you got drafted. I found that. I'm kind of shocked about that you were thinking of going off to college and how things changed.
I'll tell you
in
a
your
funny
life.
story. This is why I was thinking that way. I was playing in the OHL. I didn't have an agent. My mom and dad called agencies to see if they would represent me, and no one wanted to represent me. I was a kid that overlooked year after year, and then I ended up having a good year in junior, and people saw, all right, this guy's got some coachable aspects to his game where we can make him a better player. The work ethic's there, the intensity's there, and the passion for the game is obviously there. If you just watch me play, you'd see I had passion, and I love playing hard for my fans and my team and my teammates. And I just ended up getting drafted, and my whole life just turned around in a few weeks.
Wow, I guess so.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's a great story. A lot of people don't know that, but and listen, I get the agent part because I was such a late draft. No one wanted to represent me. I actually talked to Larry Roush. He was an agent for Brad Park, and I met him in a bar in Boston, and I had just been drafted. And I told him, I'm going to need an agent, I think, at some point. Would you be interested? And he said, well, I don't know. We can talk down the road. The fucking guy blew me off. And then years later, when I made it, he was up my ass about switching agents because I went with a guy who wasn't well known. But anyway, it just reminded me of that. And
I met mine at Johnny's Ice House. Are you in Chicago, Shotzi? Yeah, in a fucking men's league skate. I swear to God, Billy Zito. He's at the GM in Florida now. But I met him. That's how I met my age. I was flying around a bunch of 80-year-old lawyers, and he was like, "Man, you could skate."
Well, it's funny that it's my family was reaching out to get representation for their kid and not getting callbacks or just getting, oh yeah, we'll call you next week, and this just ghosting us. And so I had a guy who represented me but wasn't an agent, and he wasn't certified. So when it came time to sign a contract, he couldn't be in on the negotiations or the signing or any of that. So my first year pro. Chicago didn't have any NHL contracts available. I was 19 years old. I didn't want to go back to the OHL because I didn't think I could accomplish anything more than I already did. So they offered me an American League deal, one way, $50,000 for 1 year. And I was like, all right, well, I think I'm too good to play in the OHL now. It's not going to benefit me. So I was like, I'll take it. And I went to camp, and played an exhibition game, got cut, sent down to Rockford, where I played on the third line. And
who was coaching there in Rockford?
Ted Dent.
And Coach Q was in Chicago that first year.
Yeah. So, and I just, I played hard. I think my first 37 games pro, I had 12 goals, 12 assists. I thought I was doing all right. And I got a call because they traded Rob Klinkhammer, him and his contract, away for some picks. So a contract opened up, and they wanted to start negotiating. And I was like, all right. I was living in Rockford in a basement of another guy's house he was renting. I was living in it was a nice place, but I was spending $500 for a bedroom, and I had nothing else to my name. I had a bag of clothes, and I was in debt with my parents and my roommate just to help me get started. And they wanted me to sign, but they didn't want to give me a signing bonus. And I was in the Rockford watching all these kids, get their $90,000 a year in signing bonuses and making, $80,000, $90,000 playing in the American League. And they didn't want to give me, they wanted to give me league minimum, keep my $50,000, and just have it as a two-way. League minimum in the NHL, $50,000 in the minors, and no signing bonus. And I was like, look, guys, I don't have a car. I in debt with my parents. I'm in debt with my roommate just to, pay rent and eat food because I moved down there with nothing. And they're like, Mark Bergevin was like, no, we can't do that. And I was like, all right, well, I'm not signing it. And I didn't have an agent, right? So I was doing this. I think Michelle Stajan was on the call with me from the NHLPA. And I went back that weekend after not, telling him I wasn't going to sign it. The brass was all there watching. I think I scored a couple goals, got in a fight, played really well. They called me that Monday. We'd like to sign you. And I was like, well, we got any signing bonus? And they said, yeah, we'll give you $5,000 a year. It might even been $1,000 a year. And I was like, come on, guys. Like, I don't have a car. I'm bumming rides from everybody.
Fucking cheap bastards.
Yeah, like I can't tell my friends this.
So I said no. And again, in Rockford, the American League, we played a lot of 3-3s. So we had another 3-3 the next weekend. They come to watch. I put up a few goals, a couple assists, another fight. They call me the following Monday. All right, Chelsea, we really want to sign you. I was like, all right, signing bonus? And they're like, oh, yeah, we're up to $10,000 a year. And I was like, holy, these guys aren't getting it. So I said no again, and it was getting close to Christmas time. And they came down to watch again, had a great weekend. A couple goals, fight, assists, playing good on the power play. And they want to sign me again. And I was like, all right, what's the signing bonus at here, guys? It seems like it keeps going up every time we talk. I might just keep playing here and
free pizza.
They kept saying, like, if we might call you up if we sign. We might have a chance to play in the NHL. I said, that's not a guarantee. Like, I still owe my parents some money and I need to pay off my debt here. And so I ended up having another good weekend. And they called me in after – Ted Dent calls me in after practice. And he says, Chicago wants to offer you a contract. So I went in. They ended up giving me $40,000 that year for a signing bonus, and then $30,000, and then $20,000. And I was like, all right, I'll take that. I can buy a vehicle and pay off my debt. And I sign it. I go out for practice. I come off after practice. Ted Dent calls me into his office again, and he goes, hey, the Chicago Blackhawks are calling you up. You're playing your first NHL game in 2 days. I was like, all right, that's fucking cool. And it worked out. I mean, I think Daniel Carcillo got hurt at that time, and they needed someone in that type of role to jump up and fill his shoes, and just worked perfectly for me.
I guess. I mean, hearing that story, again, it's not easy to hold your ground and stand your ground, especially
20 years old.
When you're trying to make it. I mean, it says a lot about you and who you are to me. And I think that's awesome because a lot of guys would have jumped right at it. And I just think of myself, my signing bonus was sitting at $7,500 or something Canadian, or NHL dollars back in the day. I'm like, you kidding me? I was like, I just jumped at it, And my first season salary was in the minors was $17,500 and $60,000 in the NHL.
Shotzi and I are just dying laughing here.
Yeah, I just jumped right at it, believe me. And I like hearing that story, no question. The first training camp and when you went there, Marian Hossa said, it's funny. I remember Andrew Shaw coming into training camp in 2012. He was like a young kid coming in without a visor. His helmet was like on sideways. His shin pads were on sideways, like no tape. Terrible tape job, just a perfect picture of a beer leaguer. I'm looking at Jonathan Toews, and I'm like, who's this guy? Man, look at him. It's funny to watch. I mean, I can picture that, the way he explained it. And I'm certainly think you didn't feel the way he was describing you, but coming in there, how was that coming into that locker room? The hosts is Kane and Toews and that whole crowd. Like, was it intimidating for you? Well, I'm sure it wasn't intimidating, but for you. But what was that first camp like for you?
Oh, I was obviously nervous.
With those guys.
But, I don't know. I went in with one mindset: prove myself, and don't give a fuck about anything else. So that's why I went. You know, I was myself. I was obviously a little bit quieter, I think, because going into camp, I didn't know anybody. You know, I was just a kid from a small town, and I walk in there, and there's all these superstars. But it didn't change how I approached the game or prepared myself. And I didn't really give a shit whether they liked me or not, because I was there to make the team,
make a
spot, make a splash, turn some heads. That's all I cared about. So that's what I went in and did there. I ended up fighting Dan Carcillo and scoring some goals. And I think I sent some kid to the hospital with a big hit that turned some heads and got me one exhibition game, and then sent down to the minors. So I had to do it all over again down in the minors.
So you got to keep proving yourself, and you do, and you get called up. Now, listen, they have you listed 5'11", 182. Is that real?
Yeah, I'd maybe like 5'10 and a half, 5'10", 3/4. But when I first came into the league, I was like 170 pounds, just skinny, skin and bones. It took me, till I was like 26 to start putting on weight. I don't know. It's just my body type, I guess. But now I struggle to keep it off like the rest of you.
Yeah, really. So that first game, that first call up, you get called up. You're coming to Chicago, and again, such a perfect place for you to play the game. Now, I think any original 6 team would have been perfect for you. There's no question. But Chicago, that crowd, those people, they cling and they love players like you. There's no question about it. How long did it take that crowd for you to really feel like, we love this kid?
I don't know. My first game was on the road in Philly. I scored a goal. I got in a fight my second shift, scored a goal in my first NHL shot. So I think I maybe surprised some people there, but I don't know. I'd have to say, I think it was 9 games in, I had 5 goals. So, and a couple scraps. So I think that's when this kid can play, I guess. I don't know. And I think Chicago being that type of city, blue collar, passion for their sports, I think that's what they accepted me for, is because they knew I wasn't a prima donna. I was out there giving everything I had, putting my body on the line, go to the net, go to the corner, face up against some bigger guy. I think that's what, I was a kid playing a game that I loved and I had passion for. I think that's what they loved about me.
Yeah, I don't know, Knux. I'm from Chicago, so Hawks fans, I don't know. They're not like hockey fans. They're Hawks fans. They're yelling shoot when you have the puck at the red line. Shoot! It's not like, fans in Montreal that know the game, right? So, but
maybe that's why they like me. I hear them shoot, yeah. and I just fired at the net.
Now, did that first game, was that was awesome. First of all, your first goal was sick. You dangled Timonen, and it wasn't like you just shot it. And then your fight against Ronaldo, was that kind of the plan? You were fighting right away? Is that what you had your mindset?
Well, my mindset almost changed because I started the game playing on a line with Sharp and Toews, and I think Dunks and Siebes were on the blue line, and I was like, I thought I was going to be on the 4th line or something, but here I am starting my first NHL game with a bunch of Hall of Famers, but I also told myself, make an impact, make sure people remember you. And I fought Zach Ronaldo once in junior, and Jimmy Hayes just scored a goal, and I'm lining up at center, and I see him come over the boards, and he's looking at me, and he just looks at me, do you want to go? And I was like, fuck yeah, let's go. So we went. I ended up getting took a huge right punch to the forehead, split me open for 14 stitches. So I had to go off, and get my jersey repaired because it was just covered in blood, get stitched up, and then they sent me right back out there to join the team. I ended up scoring a couple shifts later.
Man, that's awesome.
So
I had a bus full. I have
day.
a bus full of 60 people that came down from Belleville, like friends and family. They were there, all up in the 300 levels, just going nuts. It was a pretty. Look back at it, it flew by in the moment, but it was pretty awesome to have everyone there.
Yeah, for sure. I think Coach Q, right? And I think back of the days when I played against him when he was in Hartford, and they had a really good team. Remember the year '86 when we won the Cup? They took us to Game 7 in Montreal. Pepe Lemieux scored the winner, and we went on. But Coach Q was always one of those guys that I played against that I had respect for. He played hard. He was a tough guy to play against, and certainly respected him.
Was he wearing those plastic
coach,
skates still, or what?
Oh yeah. He had them on. But honestly, as a coach, when I looked at him in Chicago, and he seemed like he had such a good relationship with you guys. Listen, there was respect that he had to earn. There's no question. But boy, it seemed like you had so much respect for him, but he like almost every player there would just go through a wall for that guy. Is that a fair assessment?
100%. Yeah. I mean, I'd go through a brick wall for him. I owe a lot to my career to him. He was an amazing coach, but he was an amazing guy. He was approachable. It was intimidating to approach him, but once you sat down and talked to him, he was good. He talked to you like a human being. He treated you well. He listened to you. One story I always tell was, I was struggling my first year, and my ice time started going down from third line to fourth line to, like 5 minutes a night. And I knew myself personally, I wasn't playing well. Like, I'm a pretty good critic on myself, and I knew I wasn't playing well. I knew I was making mistakes, and I was always obviously working hard, but things just, mental mistakes or whatever were going on. And my ice time got really low. So one morning skate, he asked me, "Hey, Shazzy, how are you?" I said, "Good, Q. Do you mind if I talk to you after practice for a few minutes?" He said, "Sure, I'll be in my office whenever you're ready." So I had to work up the courage to go in there and tell him that I wanted more ice time. And I knew what I had to say, and I knew I wasn't playing great. So I went in there and I said, "Q, I know I'm not playing well. I'm not winning my puck battles. I'm making bad decisions with the puck. Doesn't mean I don't care or have the passion or I'm working hard. I need a pick-me-up. I need you to give me a little bit of an opportunity to get my step back." And he looked at me and said, "Shazzy, you be fucking ready. I'm going to play the shit out of you tonight." So then he moved me up to the third line, played, 15, 16 minutes. I scored 2 goals, and he just gave me the old nod and, back to being myself. Sometimes players just need a little pick-me-up, and he was so good at reading that and understanding that. I think it was because he was a player for so long himself that he knew players are going to go through their ups and downs. Sometimes they just need a little kick in the ass. Sometimes they need a little extra ice time and more opportunity. And I don't know, it was amazing that he could talk to me, a 20-year-old kid, who just started playing the NHL, and that's how he treated me and gave me the respect. And so I owe him a lot to my career, obviously. He let me walk that fine line, be a prick, take penalties. And he would tell me time and time again, he would say, "I don't care if you take penalties, you better play on that fucking line. You can cross that line as much as you want. Just try and stay out of the box, but if it happens, it happens." And he gave me that much respect that he knew I had to play that way on the edge to be successful, to help the team. And I think that's why he's such an amazing coach.
Sounds like Mike Keenan, Knux. When I went into Mike Keenan's office, I said, "I need a little pick-me-up." Yeah. He just told me, my wife's ugly. Get the fuck out of here. It's kind of okay. I did play for him, but that was, I was thinking to myself, I was picturing myself going in there and saying that, and what he would have said. It would have been a complete opposite. But that's awesome.
Oh, God.
Oh,
right?
Awesome.
We have Mike Keenan on. It was funny. Tim Tim played for him over in Russia, and Tim thought he was going to be like, oh, geez, here's another North American over here, you know, I'll be nice to you. And he said he was as big a prick over there as he was here.
Yeah, especially because no one understood him but me.
Yeah. He was your whipping boy. You were his whipping boy.
He was Iron Mike for sure. Yeah, for sure.
Oh. You know, I win 2 Stanley Cups, 2013, 2015. And I'm not sure exactly the year. I think it was the year before your first cup with that team. And I remember you guys were playing in Detroit, which is certainly a big rivalry game. And I remember Jonathan Toews that game. And he had got a penalty. He kind of lost his cool. I don't know if you remember.
Playoffs.
But it was the playoffs. And you guys ended up not winning that series,
no,
right?
We did.
Detroit
we won in game
you
7,
won that series.
But they were up 3.
That game
they
7.
Were up 3-1 on us in the series, and we had like that record year where we went like 24-0 to start the year.
Now, was that the year before the Stanley Cup or the Stanley Cup year?
That was during
the Stanley Cup year. Okay. I remember them talking about how he's losing it. He can't do that. He's a captain. He had so much passion. And listen, obviously, Hall of Fame career, awesome. I'm sure an awesome teammate. How would Coach Q handle something like that back in that day? And how did he, if you can kind of shed a little light on that moment? Because that was a big moment, right? He ended up in the box. You know, there was some issues there. You know, you could have lost that game 7 because of that. But
you know what he would do?
How things changed, yeah.
He would make sure that players kept each other accountable. So, like, we had a huge leadership group. You know, we had Toews, Kane, Sharp, Hossa, Keith, Seabrook, Crawford in the net, you know, and then we had our veterans that would come in and out each year. And they were so good at holding each other accountable. I remember Siebes went over and talked to him there and calmed him down. And I think we ended up killing the penalty, but we ended up losing. That was to put us down 3-1. And then, you know, we had a team meeting after that because we found that, you know, Detroit was playing their old way of, you know, clutch and grab and getting away with it. And obviously it can be very frustrating. So we had a team meeting to talk about it, and we just needed to stay cool. And wasn't Q called the meeting and asked the leadership group to say something. So then, you know, they held each other accountable, and we went out and, you know, game 5 we won in overtime. Game 6 we won in Detroit, and then we won game 7 at home as well. So it was pretty cool to, you know, have a legendary coach like that. He was so smart with how, like, he knew his players so well that he knew if he was to say something, Johnny would have just got fired up again. So he had the leadership group talk to him, calm him down. You know, Q was focusing on line changes, line matching, who's playing best where. You know, he was being a coach, and he would let the players coach each other, hold each other accountable. And that was what he kind of, I think that's why we were successful. He bred that into us that, you know, I could tell you numerous fuck you matches between forwards and D, and he would just be sitting on the bench fucking, like, you know, giggling behind it.
Loving it.
Because he'd be like, all right, fucking give it to each other. Like, you're right. He fucked up. Let him know. You know, and then it was the other way around. The D fuck up. The forwards, are you going to let him get away with this? He just fucking roasted you. Time to roast him back, you know? And it was just like brotherly family love that we had. It was his coaching style. I absolutely loved it.
That's kind of common. Knux, that was kind of similar when you guys won it, right? Like your locker room and your leadership.
Yeah.
You guys kind of like handled everything amongst the team in the locker room. It seems like that's very common in winning teams, at least.
Yeah, you don't listen, and you're not able to do it without those guys. And if the coach recognizes that, he certainly steps back and lets it happen. I get it. I know in our situation, the coach we had in '86, the Stanley Cup, Jean Perron, he wasn't the brightest bulb. He just wasn't. I mean,
he's a hockey
Gainey,
guy. Is there any bright bulbs in the hockey world or what?
No, I wouldn't even call him a hockey guy. Okay, he's
just a guy.
We had Gainey, we had Robinson, who certainly you know, kept everybody focused and basically kind of coached the team, to be honest with you, during that time. But yeah, Coach Q, and so that first Stanley Cup for you. I mean, what a feeling that must have been for you. I mean, that's what we all play for. Not everybody gets to win one, and I'm not rubbing it in, Tim. but
only one here
for you, that young kid coming in, all the adversity you had to battle through, and then you finally get there. And then a lot of people don't realize exactly what it takes to win a Stanley Cup and get through each and every game and round, how difficult it is at the end. And then when you finally get there, that feeling of elation, accomplishment, stick-to-itiveness, all those things come in. How cool is that first cup with that group of guys? Like, man, it must have been unbelievable for you.
Well, I was 21 years old, so I was on top of the world. You know, I was thinking I was going to be working a trade job 2 years before that, and there I am, you know, hoisting the Stanley Cup that every Canadian kid dreams of, you know, at such a young age. And to do it with that team, like, what did it take? I'll tell you, it took a lot of pain, a lot of guts, a lot of balls. And, you know, it was some hard nights, man. Like, you know, I think that playoff run, I had 2 broken ribs, concussion, you know, taking Advil, maybe something more powerful than Advil before, you know, some of those late games in the series. And
yeah,
that's what it took. You know, I've always heard people say, you know, they walk by the dressing room of a Stanley Cup team after losing to them, thinking they're going to be partying and so jacked up. But, you know, walk by, if you got to look in that locker room, there'd be ice bags everywhere. There'd be, you know, guys in consistent pain. You know, Jesus that year tore like 3 ligaments in his wrist, but when he practiced, he wouldn't shoot. He would just skate, and then the puck would come to him. He'd just let it go to somebody else because he couldn't pick it up and shoot it because his wrist was in so much pain. But he'd just get a little injection in the wrist before the game to numb all the pain, and he'd go out there and do that. So that's what it took. It took courage, balls, you know, guts, lots of blood, playing through injuries, and doing this, you know, in playoffs, it's every other night for 2 months straight when you hit the finals. You know, like it's exhausting. It's physically, mentally draining. I think the way I took it, I always just said to myself, new series started, 2 more weeks, give it everything you got. If you win, awesome. If you lose, you left it all out there. You know, don't think about the long game of it being a 2-month grind. Think of it like week-to-week basis, you know, and that's, I think, helped me get through it, through those tough times.
Injection. So it reminded me of Russia. Yeah. Injection. Like, that's all they like understood. I'd be like, Doc, I got diarrhea. He'd be like, injection.
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 Oh, it's crazy.
So, if you love your pet like I love my St. Bernard Adele, you'll want to feed them a balanced, biologically appropriate raw diet. The reason I've chosen Formula Raw is because all blends of their food are locally sourced and they consist of exclusively human-grade meat and organs, as well as fruits and vegetables. And all products used are hormone and antibiotic-free. So like I said, if you love your pet like I love Adele, you choose Formula Raw. Make sure you go to formularaw.com and use the promo code RawKnux at checkout to receive 10% off your first order. That's RawKnux, RAWKNUX. So that first cup, then you go on and win a second one 2 years later, right?
Yeah.
And basically the same crowd. When you're looking back and we're talking about all those battles and how difficult it is, when was your first concussion? Was it before you got to the NHL or when you got to the NHL?
When you headbutted that puck. That was your first one, right? When you headbutted the puck.
The first one I started feeling symptoms from, probably. No, in junior I got knocked out in junior in practice from a teammate. We were doing an angling drill and he decided to take advantage of me and elbowed me in the head and knocked me out. And I ended up going to the hospital in an ambulance unconscious. And that was like my first really bad one that I remember. But I woke up the next day and felt fucking amazing. You know, I missed maybe
none of the headaches, none of the nothing. Light bothers you, none of that.
But obviously it was still a concussion. I was completely unconscious, you know, for like, I was unconscious for like, they said like a minute, and then I came to, but like, I don't fucking remember. I just remember waking up in the hospital, skating down the ice, waking up in the hospital in neck brace, strapped to a bed. And I guess that was like a 30 minutes where I don't remember anything. And that happened to me once again in Montreal, that Greg Patterin hit. When I hit him and got knocked out, I was out for, a good 30 seconds on the ice. And then the trainer said I came to, but I remember sitting and skating down the ice, lining up my hit, and then I'm fucking on a table and there's 4 doctors around me with lights in my face. And I was like, what the fuck? Where the fuck am I? Get me the fuck out of here. What's going on? Started freaking out because I just came to. I was conscious, but lights are on, nobody home,
Yeah. Honestly, that was like a bad car accident. I was above you, looking down. I was up in the press box when that happened. I
hammered him though, didn't I, Knuckles?
Fuck! Yeah. Didn't you ever?
Hammered him. You took his punch after. I know you just decided to punch you after. It was like, right?
No, I didn't like him as a teammate, so that's probably why.
Well, that's what I wanted to ask you, because I saw you two played together when you first came to Montreal, and I think his wife or his girlfriend had something to say about the French and the media, and which
big no-no
in
Quebec.
Yeah, that's a big no. Come on, and it says a lot about him that she did that. That's all I got to say about that. But as a teammate, him, like, fuck, he must not have liked you, and you must have let him know you didn't fucking like him, because
I just I didn't like listening to guys bitch all day about not playing. So maybe get some balls and do something on the ice to make them let you play. Like, earn it.
Yeah.
And he just
punch a guy unconscious. Punch a guy unconscious.
Oh, trust me. Minnie in Dallas, they didn't like him either. There's common factor, because he was, I don't know. He moved to Cali with his wife and just thought he was the coolest, swaggiest guy. Thought he was amazing at hockey, but like, fucking earn it, buddy. Like the rest of us.
I hate him now. I hate him.
You should.
Tim, we'll have to have him on.
The guy's got his
and I'm so two-faced. I'd be like, "Hey, Pats, how you doing?" I never met him.
So he's scouting now?
I guess he's got a scouting job. Because I think he got used to watching so many games that he became a good scout.
I hope he's not looking for guys like him. That's all I got to say. Whatever team he's scouting for is fuck them. So, God, so many ways I want to go here. So the concussions.
Yeah.
I'm going down this weekend to Boston University to get MRIs. They're going to give me a baseline of where I am as far as my brain. They're not going to tell me, you're going to have CTE or you have it. They're just going to give me a baseline where I'm at neurologically. And, for my age, I'm 65. And each year they'll monitor me. Now, my friend Proby, Danny donated his brain to science, and he had CTE pretty bad when they looked at his brain. I don't sit here and worry about it. I'm not gonna. I got knocked out one time. It was in a car accident. I got ejected from the vehicle, but I apparently had some concussions during my career. Now, like you said, I never had those symptoms the next day where I didn't, I had headaches. I was averse to light, stuff like that. How many times did you have concussions where you got up the next day and fuck, something ain't right? Something ain't right.
To be honest, not till my first year in Montreal that Krug hit. Open ice. I'm still, to this day, I don't understand how. If it was me throwing that hit, I would have got 10 games easily. He didn't even get a fucking penalty. And they're going to say, they told me I put myself in that position. I was trying to play the puck, and he took my head off with his elbow. It's what happened. I don't care.
Yeah.
Go watch the video. It's clear as day. And they, me and my agent, Pat Brisson, were, quite pissed that there was no suspension. So we had a meeting with them on the phone, and they told me, well, you put yourself in that bad position. It's like by playing fucking hockey.
Fucking.
Like he didn't even try to play the puck. All he wanted to do was try and kill me. And from that concussion on, every time I took a heavy blow to the head, I would be fucked for like 2 months. It was like movement, man. Like I'd get in a car and I'd just start sweating, getting white, puking. It would just be a 5-minute drive to the rink. I'd be fucking out of it. I wasn't sleeping. I was waking up in the middle of the night, puking. I had all this eye issues going on with light, sound issues going on. It was just driving me crazy. And like I would get on the ice because, I was a proud hockey player, tough. I'm going to play. I'm fine. I get out there for practice after that Krug hit, and I woke up, felt like I got hit by a truck, felt like shit. Got on the ice, and I started skating around. And it was just like, the Daytona 500. Everyone's just doing laps at the start of practice. I start getting dizzy and nauseous, and I'm like, what the fuck's going on? I can't even caliber that people are skating by me. I was just like in no man's land, and that's how I kind of felt after each big blow that I had. They were big blows. They were obviously concussions, like the Patterson one, and I had one. So I missed 2 months from that concussion, and I came back, and like I was, as a hockey player, you want to play. Like I always thought, like the medical staff's job was to play you when you're ready to play, and I was telling them my symptoms. I was, being honest with them, and they threw me back in that game, that Boston game, after Krug lit me up. I came off, I passed the concussion test, and like, oh, you're good to go. I'm like, yeah? They're like, oh yeah. And in that moment in the game, you're so hyper active, I didn't feel it. And I was like, all right, I'm going back out there.
Yeah.
So I went back out there.
Adrenaline.
And then McQuaid hit me, and I started to hit my head again and played the rest of the game. I woke up the next day. It's like, how the fuck did you guys let me go back out? As a hockey player, you got to hold me back. I'm going to push myself to get back. I get paid to play hockey. If I'm good enough to play, I'm going to play, and these guys just, oh yeah, you passed the concussion test. Go ahead. You're back out there. I was like, all right.
Yeah.
They didn't look at, like I was clearly out of it after that hit. And then I came back and played the rest of the game, ended up missing 2 months. And I was fighting them to get me back into play because that's how hockey players are bred. We want to fucking play.
Yeah.
So I play. I think I probably came back too early. Playoffs started, and I went head on head with Brady Shea in the corner, and I had like this weird sense of like deja vu, and I was like, stumbling off the ice, and I got off, and I was like, oh fuck. But it was playoffs, so I was like, I'm going to play. I'm going to do my. They traded for me for this part of the year. I gotta come out here and show them what I can do. And then I was playing through. That was game 1, so I played through concussions through game 2, 3, 4. I got in a fight in game 4, 5. I got punched in the head by Brandon Smith a couple times in a fight. Hit a couple times because it's playoffs, and I remember my wife was worried about me. I was puking in the middle of the night and not sleeping, just angry all the time. Couldn't get in cars, so she made me call Mark Bergman and tell him. And like, Mark's a pretty emotional guy. We got on the plane to go to New York for Game 6, and he pulls me back, and he's almost in tears about the whole situation and mad at me for not saying anything earlier. But I wanted him to know, like, hey, I'm a hockey player. I'm ready. I'm fucking here to play. Yeah. So I ended up missing Game 6, and we lose. And that summer was probably one of the worst summers of my life. It's tough to say because I got married that summer, but I was going through shit mentally. Like I wasn't sleeping. I was aggravated and feeling like shit. And I had to do 4 MRIs, functional MRIs on my brain that summer, and they were 2.5 hours long each MRI, and I couldn't sleep through them. I had to stay awake. And that was the hardest thing I ever had to do in my life, was lay there for 2.5 hours without falling asleep, without moving. And I was like I said, I was very aggravated at this point. I don't know, it was the concussions or whatever, but I remember sitting in there for my third, they wanted to see how my brain was doing functionally as months went by, because I wasn't allowed to play until they saw what they wanted to see on the MRI, to clear me. And I was sitting in there, and it was like, I have neck issues since that Krug hit, because my whole head just kind of whips, and I've had issues with my neck since. And I was laying there, and my neck starts hurting. And I'm like, fuck, I can't move. Like, all I want to do is move and crack my neck to make it feel better. And they're like, I have a buzzer. I buzz them. They're like, oh, what's wrong? I'm like, my neck's really killing me. Like, how much time? Like, oh, you got 30 minutes left. So I was like, all right, I'll try and tough it out. And it was like, I think 10 minutes went by and my neck was just throbbing. And I buzzed them like, how much time? Like, oh, 20 minutes. And I was like, can you just get me out of here? And they're like, no, just sit 20 minutes. We'll be good. So I let 5 more minutes went by, and I just fucking said, get me the fuck out of here right fucking now. And I started like ripping shit off me, and they're like, holy fuck, calm down. And I was like, you guys not fucking listening to me? So then I had to redo that last 30 minutes. So it was like one of the most painful things I had to put myself through. So it was a tough summer for me, but I felt good coming into next year, and I think I had a decent year. So I was playing well, and then that Patterson thing happened. I blew my knee. I had to get knee surgery plus a concussion, and it was just a bit of a shit show for those first 2 years there. And then when I came back, the following year, Montreal, I was playing on the fourth line, barely playing any minutes. Claude Julien, I don't know what he thought of. He wasn't playing me, and I knew I was better than the kids they were playing. But that's the French, man. The French media was all about, we need to play these French guys. We need to play these French guys. Like, why is this guy playing? So then I watched like 3 rookie Frenchmen. Nothing against any of them. They're all good guys. I was friends with them. I never didn't Greg Patterson in the locker room and whine about it. I just kept my head on straight. Yeah. Control what you can control. So I just kept pushing myself, and Claude calls me in, and he's like, we're going to scratch you. And I was like, I've never been scratched in my life. So it was obviously, a hit to my ego. But I went out, and I fucking went to practice, and I battled, and I got bag skated after, and we ended up losing. I got scratched 2 games in a row. We ended up losing big time. So I got to play again, and someone was hurt, so they played me with Domi, and then me and Domi just took off. We were pretty good together. I think we just saw the game the same way, but yeah. I got lost in that conversation. Yeah, that's okay. That's okay. I would too many concussions. I can certainly. I get you. I hope for you. You don't suffer long term. That's all. When I think about what you've been through, because honestly, that Krug hit was fucking vicious, and it's unbelievable. So we hear the league talk about, we're going to eliminate head hits. You can't target the head, all this. And then we see the Trouba hit the other night. Oh, that was disgusting. And they explain it like they explained it away as, it was okay. And they put some of the onus on Timo. Timo, saying he was put himself in that position too. And I don't know when they're going to fucking wake up until someone gets killed or until a superstar, because the game is so fast. A superstar gets so hurt that they can't play again. That's when they'll change it. But if it's a pigeon like myself, who clearly who's gotten in trouble himself with the NHL, they're going to let that shit go. I don't bring in the fans that, McDavid brings in. That's all they care about. Price tag. Yeah. I can tell you that when we leave the game, it's the same thing. They don't give a fuck about us. No, I believe me. We found out pretty quick. Yeah. Although, what I will say in defense of the NHL, in that, because it's easy to point the finger, that when I did have problems, they did step up to the plate and help me go to treatment and get my life in order. So I will say that. But it took them 2 years to message me. 2 years after retirement to message me to see how I was doing. Wow. Well, this has nothing to do with the front office, the NHL, like Bettman and them. This was the doctors from the substance abuse piece of the league. Okay. So, which they were really cool with me. And listen, I could never say enough good things about like the Chicago doctors and medical staff and my agent, Pat Brisson, they went beyond for me in my recovery.
Now, and you said it, so, those concussions, and you couldn't protect yourself from yourself.
Yeah.
Too, in a sense. So there's that responsibility there. Some of that lies on you, and certainly the medical staff, it lies on that, geez, we got to hold this guy back. And it seems like it didn't happen. So do you, like, now I watch you on Instagram with your family, you got a young family. You do a lot with your family. I see it. I follow you. And, do you ever have any residual effects from all that shit that happened during your career, around your family? Do you find yourself having to hold yourself back? Any of that anger shit come up? Because I had to deal with it, and I did deal with it, and it wasn't easy. It wasn't fun, but I had to face it like I had to face everything else in my life.
Yeah, I'd say I did and do. I mean, like I said, the sound is really something that bothers me. So when you have two kids, it just, kids just scream and whine all the time, right?
Yeah. Oh, I got two, yeah.
Like pattern.
Yeah.
I'm fucking I'm dad of the fucking year, that's for sure.
Well, I feel the same way. I feel the same, dad of the year.
We're victims, Shazzy. We're victims.
So I think a lot of that, was a big game changer. And I think my wife realized, pretty early that it was bugging me. So when things would get too loud, kids are screaming or whining, she was really good about it, just telling me to leave the room. Go chill out somewhere. Just go take a breath, and it helped. I got a psychiatrist. I talked to psychiatrists about, Chicago actually, because I was really like Gapper and JT, the two medical guys there, are some of my, like, they're good friends. They're like, I worked with them for 7 years, but I think I'll be friends with them the rest of my life. They knew I was struggling with shit like that, so they call this guy, talk to this guy, talk to him once a week, and then I did for months and months and months, and then he helped me through a lot of stuff. So that's why I give them so much praise, because they were great to me. And Pat Brisson treated me like I was Patrick Kane. The way he'd answer his phone and call me and check up on me, and get me appointments to go to Michigan to see a neurologist, and they were great with that. But but I was struggling with it, as a hockey player, we're in routine, we're told what to be or where to be, what to wear, what to eat, all that shit. So once that ended, I was sitting at home, like, jobless.
Oh yeah.
Purposeless, I guess, other than being a husband and a father. So I had to find a way to get through that. And I got into a really good routine that I still do today. I wake up, we get the kids to school. I work out for about an hour and a half a day, sauna, cold tub, vitamins, eat healthy, stay hydrated, health stuff to take care of my body and my mind.
Stay busy. That's for sure. That's good you're doing that, because, listen, from me, take it from Tim, I got lost in that transition, and it wasn't good.
We're hockey players, boys. So, we ain't bright.
Yeah, I'm still lost. I'm like, what am I even doing here? Like, no, I love what you're saying, because honestly, like, in any walk of life, it's just like, you don't have to do it alone, right? And you're not going to do it alone, right? Like, a lot of that help you just acknowledge is awesome that you have.
Family, friends, man.
For sure.
Get you a long way.
And, Andrew, and you talk so highly of Chicago, and I don't blame you. Certainly, I think of my years, and back in our day, there was no free agency. So we stayed together for a long time. And your team stayed together for quite a few years there. You knew you had something good. They were able to keep you together, and you build that family atmosphere. So when you had to leave Chicago, because it fucking almost broke me when I had to leave Montreal, I tell you, when I went to New York. It almost fucking broke me, but I didn't let it. And but emotionally, and, hockey players, we don't talk about our emotions. You fucking stuff them down, suck it up, and keep going.
Like a big boy.
But, how difficult was that for you I know you're coming to Montreal here, so there's some, it's better than going to, fucking wherever, Arizona or, somewhere to golf. But you were coming somewhere else to play hockey. And Bergie was here, which I'm sure helps you a little bit dealing with it. But how difficult was that when you got that call? I'm fucking out of here. I love this place because the fans love you, your teammates love you, everybody fucking love you. You're gone.
It was heartbreaking, man. After I'll tell you the story about when I got traded. There was a whole process to it, but when I did get traded, man, I had a tough time going back to Chicago, just because it was, fucking all these warm memories come up, and knowing I'm not going to play there again, it was extremely tough. But the whole process was tough because Toews and Kane, the year before I got traded in the summer, they signed their extension for 10.5. So we get to the end of that season. We lost in Game 7 against St. Louis. And, my contract's up. I got 2 Stanley Cups under my belt, 20-goal season, helping in playoffs. So I was like, all right. I think
now we got to pay Andrew. Yeah.
It wasn't, right? But it wasn't just me. It was a lot of guys.
Few guys.
So they told me, all right, we want to re-sign you. We just have to move some pieces first. So I was like, all right, I'll be patient. Pat Persson was like, all right, let's be patient. So it was like 2 months where, they would call in once every 2-3 weeks and check up and be like, hey, we're still trying to move some pieces, to make some room for you. They ended up trading away 4 guys before the draft. So I was like, all right, they got to have room for me. And they never once offered me a contract or even asked what I would take, a pay cut to stay or anything. They didn't offer me anything. So it came to draft day. Pat Persson calls me in the morning and says, Shazi, I think they're moving you today at the draft. I was like, oh, fuck, great. And he's like, but I have 3 teams that really want you. You pick which one you want, and I'll make sure you go there. I think it was Calgary, Winnipeg, and Montreal. And I was like,
that's fucking easy. Yeah. Wow. Calgary's a pretty good place. But
Winnipeg's, what are you talking about?
Yeah, Winnipeg. I was like,
I'm sorry, Tim.
I was like, I don't know if I could live in the 1800s, so I didn't know if I wanted to go back to Winnipeg. So when he said Montreal, I'm an Ontario boy. Montreal is like 3.5 hours from my house. So I was like, Montreal. And he's like, all right, I'll make it happen. Day goes on. I was at a wedding and I get the call, and you being traded to the Montreal Canadiens. It was oh my God, Stan Bowman called me, and I was like, all right, thanks, Stan. He's like, sorry, Shazi, I couldn't make. We loved you here. It's a business. We can't afford to keep you. I was like, I get it.
La-di-da.
I understand. And then my dad calls me and he goes, there's 29 other fucking teams in this league, and you go to the one that I can't fucking stand. And, he was a Boston fan growing up, and being in Ontario and Quebec, they're always that subtle chirps back and forth between the Frenchies and the Squareheads, and so he was like, "Fucking the one team I can't stand." It's like, Dad, it's owned by Molson. I know you love your beer. It's 3 hours from home. You'll be there. They play Saturday nights every fucking weekend. You're going to love it. Yeah. He's like, all right. Yeah. I can deal with that. Then they had the beers cold for him in the family room. And they came down I swear to God, every weekend. Me and my wife were like, Mom, Dad, you can't be fucking coming here every weekend,
And they loved it, right?
Their face was painted.
So it was pretty good story. It was pretty funny, but my dad ended up loving it. Q actually left me I didn't answer because I was at the wedding, and he left me a voicemail, and the voicemail, I saved it for years, and it was like, Shazi, fuck, I'm going to miss you, buddy. You're a hell of a player. Every coach will be lucky to have you. And just kind of parted ways that way. And I kind of kept in touch with him over the years, and we talked about, I could go on about Q all day, I guess, but.
Yeah, it's so funny. Well, I'm going to ask you something else about him, but it's funny because it brought up in me. My dad, when I was in New York, I wanted to go to Boston. My father called me. He said, the way they fucking treated you and what they said about you, and fucking Nyland sucks, fucking don't come back here, he told me. Don't. I said, Dad, I always wanted to play for the Bruins. He said, don't fucking come back. And I did. And he never fucking got over it. He didn't even want to go to games, and he fucking hated the Boston fans when I was in Montreal. But it's funny when you said that. Your dad sounds like my father. God rest his soul. Coach Q. Let me get back to him for a minute. That whole thing, and I want to bring it up, and we don't have to get bogged down on it, but the whole Kyle Beech thing. You know what it's like here. You played here. The fucking everybody's squawking about this one, that one, what color tape they were. Oh, he had fucking red tape on tonight, not black tape. They know everything, and they think they know everything. But that being said, I lost my train of thought. How's that? Concussion.
Concussion. Yeah.
Coach Q. In dealing with that whole Kyle Beech thing. And I think, honestly, they fucked that guy, the NHL. I think it's so wrong that he's out of the game right now. Or he even had to fucking sit out a year. Because that's a management thing. And management runs the show there. And they tell a coach, here's the deal. You focus on this team winning the Stanley Cup. You players, don't say a word about it. Just fucking focus on winning. And then that guy pays. And I just think it's so fucking wrong that he's out of the game right now. And he's actually got to go get an interview with fucking Gary Bettman to get back in the league at some point. I don't know when that's going to happen. I think it's a fucking shame.
It is a shame. To me, he's the greatest coach of all time. And, if he doesn't come back to coach for that reason, I mean, that's a huge loss for the NHL. I mean, he could develop players better than any other coach. He could push teams to, bring out their best every game. That whole situation, I don't know when it happened. It was the second round or third round. It might even been going into the finals. I honestly don't think any of the players knew anything about it until the following training camp. At that point in playoffs, all you do is hockey, sleep, eat, hockey, sleep, eat. They have you staying in hotels when you're at home because they want you just focusing on the game. So I don't think it came into the locker room until the following. But at that point when it came in, I don't think they knew who it was. They didn't know it was Kyle. And from what I heard was, management, the whole management had a quick meeting about it. But Stan and Q got wrapped up in it because obviously they're, leaders in their own area, and they weren't in the meeting long because figured that's an HR problem.
Yeah,
I don't think. I mean, I lived with Kyle in Rockford. He was great to me. He helped me out pay rent my first 2 months. He helped. He paid for my groceries for a couple weeks till I got a paycheck in me, and so I have nothing bad to say about Kyle, but. It's a shame that something like this had to go that far when it could have been, nipped in the butt pretty quick. From upper management, from HR, it should have had nothing to do with the players and the coaching staff or the GM in that time. You leave that meeting thinking, all right, they're taking care of it. That's their job. Our job, my job is to coach the team.
Yeah.
That's what I'm here to do.
Yeah.
HR and upper management can deal with that. Obviously, it sucks, but as a 20-year-old, I would probably never put myself in that situation that Kyle was in. I would have.
Yeah, yeah.
And I mean, I can say that, but obviously, I don't know what was going on with Kyle or anything going on in his head. But he put himself in a bad situation.
Yeah, and we all have at one time or another. But I again, like you, I would never be in that situation. And if I happen to be, I would have fucking gouged that guy's fucking eyes.
Yeah, my thumbs would have been in the back of through his fucking eyes. Yeah.
Thank you. And that being said, that again, I look at it. Upper management should have dealt with that guy, and then the mistake of fucking giving him a
letter of recommendation.
Fuck, that's insanity. Like, shame on you for that.
But I don't know if that has anything to do with the organization or it's an old boys club, because I know his old man was, high up and Who knows? But
Right?
like you send them to a high school.
But that got nothing to do with Coach Q.
No.
For sure.
Nothing to do with Coach Q. I agree.
Yeah, and I really feel he's been wrong. I just only hope someday he gets back in the NHL because he deserves to be there.
Because you want to see that big Bruce, the old mustache on the bench, eh?
Yeah. Fuck, he's awesome on the bench. Honestly, fuck his demeanor, everything, passion. Yeah, I played against him. I didn't play for him, but he's one of those guys. I looked at him like, fuck, I would have loved to play for that guy. Just love to play for him. And obviously guys like you, certainly.
I never had a good coach after I left him. I'll tell you that. Never had a good coach after I left him.
I love that. I love your honesty and being upfront because it's, you went somewhere else and, we're loved there and you get to Montreal, but you're here. And so the coaches, apparently, they don't come close to Coach Q, and that's fine. How did you like Montreal, though, when you got here? The city, the vibe, like the Bell Center. Like, it's pretty cool to play here.
Loved it.
And to wear that jersey.
Loved every minute of it, man. I moved into the South Shore, got a nice house. Webby was right in behind me, Petrie down the street, Pricey, Paulie B. They're all, within 2 minutes. The group of guys was amazing. The fans were amazing. The hockey was amazing. I wish we could have done more. Obviously, I wish we could have, won a little bit more. But we went through, I don't know, what's wrong with that cursed organization of just injuries after injuries,
Yeah.
I think 1 year we had, 2 years in a row, we had most games missed by, starters.
This year again with this team.
I don't know what it is. But it's
the fucking Bell Center. It's the curse of the Forum, I think. But
I loved it.
Hopefully,
I love the food. I love the people. I love the excitement about hockey. It was 3 hours from home, so I had friends and family up there all the time. And that's where we started our family. We had my daughter. After my first year there, and I don't know, it's quite amazing. I enjoyed it. I sold my house to Ben Sherratt. I wish I never did. I wish I kept it so I could come back and visit. And it was a beautiful spot. So it was a good time.
Well, good for you.
Knox, you got an extra room.
Yeah.
Let him in.
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
He'll pay rent like when he started his career.
Yeah, we got bunk beds. We're good.
I'll say this. When I got traded out of Montreal back to Chicago, I was very upset about it. I never wanted to go anywhere. I just had an amazing year playing with Domi. I just was getting over all the concussions, and like hockey was great again. I was loving it, because those first 2 years was pretty hard.
So how did that happen though, Shawzy? Like Bergie's there still. How does he trade you back to Chicago?
So I'll tell you.
Listen, I know he had to listen. He had to start rebuilding. His job was going to be in trouble. So I know he wanted to stock up on draft picks again, and because he didn't do that at the beginning.
Look at all the
he tried to trade his way,
did, man. Like
Dvorak,
what's he thinking? That's what I had. They given me a hard time about point production and everything, and they go in and pay a guy like that who earned nothing in the career.
Yeah.
I was like, there's a mistake, and then there's Jonathan Drouin for, Sergachev,
Yeah. Oh,
but that pulls in the French part of it where we want a French superstar. It's like, how about you just have a superstar, when's the last time they had a point per guy, a point per guy on their team?
Well, they're talking about getting Pierre-Luc Dubois now. That's the new.
It's too much pressure for a French kid to come in and play there. He has one bad game. He's the worst kid in hockey. And I just found, so when I got traded, I don't know why I got hurt earlier in the year, and they wanted me to be more open about my concussion stuff. So I took a high shoulder hit and my neck twisted. So I played the rest of the game. We flew to Dallas. I get to Dallas, and I don't fucking feel good. So I tell them, all right, I got some neck issues. I got headaches. So right then they shut me down. I was thinking it was going to be like a 2-week thing, a week thing. They shut me down for 6 straight weeks. And I was after a week, I was I'm fine. I'm feeling fine. I've learned so much about concussions that 7 to 10 days is when your concussion's healing. And after that, it's symptoms that are left behind. You got to work through them to feel normal. But I didn't have any symptoms. I was feeling good. So I was all right, I'll give you an extra week of, skating and going through all these testing. Like, they put me through the ringer every time I got hit, because I always said they were protecting themselves, not me, because I didn't feel the love. I didn't feel like anyone was listening to what I was saying. They were just.
How about Bergie? Wasn't Berge?
So
no,
we had a meeting because I was giving our doctor, Dr. Mulder. I know he's there. He's well respected.
Yeah.
But he's not a brain doctor. And their medical staff was like against me. They were trying to get me to retire. They like pulled me into a meeting unexpectedly and had the 3 doctors, Mark Bergevin, all the medical staff in there, and they were teaming up on me, grilling me. Oh, don't you ever want to like play with your kids? Started throwing all this shit at me. Like, you're going to get CTE. And they started like throwing all this shit at me. And I'm like,
you got ambushed.
I got ambushed by him. And I like, so I stood up for myself and I said, fuck you. There's nothing wrong. Clear me to play. I've passed every test they put me through. I passed with flying colors, MRI, flying colors, everything I was passing, and they were still holding me out, trying to get me to retire. And I was like, I've just started having like one of my best years, offensively, and this you're shutting me down. And this is, we're a few points out of a playoff spot.
You're 29?
I was 29. Oh no, I was 28.
28. Okay.
So I'm like, no.
Prime. Fucking prime.
Ready to go, feeling great. And they held me out for 6 weeks and they wouldn't clear me. So I had my agent, I called Pat. I'm like, Pat, they're not going to fucking clear me. I don't know what's going through their head. I'm telling them I'm fine. I'm being honest. Obviously, because I wasn't honest earlier in my career about it because I wanted to play. But I learned a lot over those 2 years of seeing doctors and MRIs and neurologists. And so I learned, all right, I'm going to be honest. So the first time I'm honest with them, and then they treat me like this. They ambush me. They wouldn't clear me to play. Like no doctor under their staff would sign off that I was healthy to play. So
they didn't believe
They didn't believe me. So I snapped. Pat Brisson sends, all right, we're going to send you to Dr. Tutcher in Michigan. So I went and spent 3 days with him. And he hooked me up to machines, put me through all these tests. And he comes back and says, all right, you're fine. We watched the video, watched my concussions, all of them, watched my fights. He went through everything. He's like, you're fine. I don't know what they're doing. So they sent me back. He sent me back, cleared me to play. And that's what they wanted. They wanted another doctor to clear him. So to me, I felt like they were covering their own ass. So if something happened, he got cleared somewhere else. It wasn't us. We didn't want to clear him.
Yeah.
So the doctor cleared me. And the moment I get back, I'm ready to play. I'm in game shape. I've been skating. And they're like, oh, no, we're going to wait another week or two. So they sat me out for another week or two. And this is all going on when we're trying to make playoffs. And at that point in the year, me and Domi were playing unbelievable together. We were offensively carrying a lot of the load, and they weren't playing me. So when I got back, I think we were like, I don't know, like 7 points out of playoffs. And I start playing. Me and Domi start clicking again. We start playing well. Comes down to the last few games, I think we lost out by a point or whatever, and I felt like I took on like a leadership. No, I felt like I was a leader, so I was trying to push the guys, get the best out of them. We missed the playoffs by 1 point. Go in like kind of disappointed on how the season ended, but like what the guys did in those last 20 games was impressive. And I was like, all right, we're building something here. Next year we're going to be fucking ready. We're all going to be a year more mature. We're going to be that much better. We're going to be healthy start the year. And then out of nowhere, I get a call from Berge, and all he said was, yeah, we traded you. And I was like, seriously? Yeah, you're going back to Chicago. And I was like, why? And he's like, I'll call you later. And then hung up. And I never talked to him for a year and a half.
Wow.
And he told me he did it for me. I'm like, if you did it for me, why wouldn't you ask for my opinion? I didn't want to fucking go anywhere. I liked what we were building there. We had some good young kids coming in, a great leadership group at that point, and we were ready to go to the next step, and just see you later.
That sucks.
It did suck.
Yeah. That sucks.
It ruined a relationship between me and Burge, where I had a good relationship with him, and it fucking just ruined it.
Yeah, listen, especially the relationship you had. I wouldn't have done it on the phone. I would have went and fucking looked you in the eye at least. And talk to you before that. And then if you're going to fucking trade him, have the balls to fucking go up and look him in the eye. But anyway, God, listen to me getting emotionally involved here. I'm not supposed to do that, but
no, it hurt, man. It made me fall out of love with the game for a little bit, and like to me, I was a brother in that locker room. I'm not a big guy, and I was defending my teammates every night, giving every single thing I had. Concussion after concussion.
Yeah, no one will ever question that.
But that's how I felt.
No one ever questioned that. Yeah.
Next piece of meat. See you later.
Yeah. So you go back to Chicago. Now I remember when
there was no queue there.
I went to New York. I went to New York. I went to Boston, and then I got picked up off of waivers. I got out of Boston. It was I was there for a year and a half and my first year was okay, but it was like a fucking root canal the rest of the time there. And I ended up coming back to Montreal. I picked up off of waivers, and I was so happy to be back, but it was different. How about you?
It was extremely different. I think there was 4 guys I played with from the time that I was there before that were still there.
Didn't feel the same, right?
Didn't feel the
coach was
same
younger than you, wasn't he? Wasn't the coach younger?
He was younger than a couple of our older guys. He was 34, I think, but 35 maybe. But yeah, I come in there, new coaching, whole new atmosphere. It went from winning is everything to let's have fun. Yeah. I was like, no, fucking winning's fun. So let's fucking win.
Yeah.
You're he's angry, he's concussed.
Yeah. And it was just totally different, a coach that got the best out of you by maybe riding you a little hard, but that's what hockey is. If you can't handle it, get the fuck out of here. We're here to win. We're here to make each other better. And then when I came back, I was like, this is like a country club. Everyone doesn't give a fuck. And, the coaching is totally different than what I'm used to. Even different from what it was in Montreal. Michel Therrien was hard. Claude Julien was hard. But I go back there, and this guy is Jeremy Colton, a really, really nice guy. Cares about you, would do anything for you. But his coaching didn't go with how I was raised or how I was coached. It was all right, guys, we lost 6-0. It was because it wasn't clean out there today.
Yeah.
It was where the fuck is the accountability? And it sucked because when I was a young guy and I came into Chicago, you had to earn it. And it wasn't one game to earn a spot. It was consistently, I played there 5 years before I came back. And it was my 5th year. I got 2 cups under my belts, established NHLer. I still had to give everything I had, every practice, every game, every time in the gym. And then I get back to Chicago and it's we traded for these first rounders that didn't pan out on other teams, so we're going to give them a shot here. I'm like, all right, so where am I playing? They're like, oh, you're going to start on the 4th line or 3rd line, see how it's going because we got to give this kid a shot. It's give him a shot, make him fucking earn it, that's how I was raised. That's how champions are made, you earn it and not just once, over and over and over again. So then when I went back there, that was the mentality there. We're giving these young guys, an opportunity. And I remember one young guy turn the puck over in our own end all the time, get scored on. We were winning. I remember we were winning 2-1 one game. It was 8 minutes left in the game. And he tries to backhand toe drag a guy, gets poked in his own end, gets poked. They keep it in and they score, tie it up. I'm telling you, if it was Q, Michel Therrien, Claude Julien, you come off as a young guy and you did that and they tie the game up, you're not playing the rest of the game. You might not play next game.
Yeah.
But no. Yeah. His line right back out there, him right back out there again. Another mistake, costs another goal.
It's okay.
It's okay. Yeah, we're learning. It's he's not learning.
Look at the iPad. Look at the iPad. Check the iPad
out. No swearing.
Yeah. So I just, like you said, it was different. The fans were still amazing. The organization was still amazing. But, the locker room mentality was totally different than from when I was there. I didn't bitch about it.
Yeah.
I was happy,
No, it's different. It's different times, right?
Yeah.
It's funny. They just fired a coach, you're talking about, Darryl Sutter, who certainly is one of them guys. He holds guys accountable, and some guys just don't like that, right? They don't like it, especially some of the superstar
That's their
players.
fault.
If you don't, you don't powder their bums and fucking change their diapers, then you're fucked. So Darryl's fucked. But thank God, that guy, I loved him as a player. he was awesome as a coach in LA, and just the coaches like that are just they're going to be extinct now at some point.
That's
right?
the society we live in.
Right? Yeah, fucking right, and it's sad. If I can ask, you look at the NHL today and the game today, and we talk about society. What do you think of players like Provorov in Philly with the LGBTQ thing where they don't wear the jersey in the warm-up, they don't want to? Do you think the NHL should just stay away from that or what? Because I think of this, right? Could you imagine if someone, they have military nights at stadiums, right? If a guy from Russia said, I'm not going to fucking wear that thing. I'm not wearing a military jersey of the U.S. Everybody would go nuts. And I get it in a sense. I hate the fact that sports and politics are intersecting now. They've always said they shouldn't intersect. What do you think of what Provorov and the other guys who refused to wear that jersey? What do you think of that?
I mean, I respect them because that's extremely hard to do. Like,
yep.
I got in trouble with some, using a gay slur, but it was never towards someone of that community. I have no problem with anyone in the gay community. Where my problem is in society now, they push stuff on kids. They're
yeah.
Like, I have my daughter. I want to raise her the way I want to raise her. I don't want somebody else raising her. I don't want them putting their views on my daughter. I had her. She's mine till she's 18. I'm going to try and make her as respectable and as a human being as possible. But I also look at it like the NHL, Bud Light. You produce hockey, you produce beer. Stay in your lane.
Yeah.
Why is politics getting into everything in this world? I don't understand why. Politics has its own issues. Stay there. Yeah. Why do you have to take a beer who has been never put faces on it from any woman or man over the years?
Yeah.
Suddenly come out of nowhere and put someone from the trans community on there. And I'm not against trans at all, but leave the kids out of it. That's all I'm saying is leave the kids alone.
Yeah.
No. So when the NHL wants to do, the Jersey night, people have religious beliefs. They have their own beliefs. Yeah. They're there to play hockey, not talk about their beliefs or other people's beliefs. It's in the hockey community. If there was someone from the gay community good enough to play in the NHL, I don't see. Maybe there's obviously going to be a couple bad apples that might not agree with it, but to me, to 99% of people in the NHL, if you're good enough to play, that's all I care about, man. Your sexual orientation or any of that would never matter to me or 99%. Obviously there's bad apples in every, company or whatever. There's bad people out there, but.
And alluding to, yes, you said you made a gay slur, you got fined, suspended for it, whatever.
I got fined for the double finger. I didn't get fined. I got suspended for the slur.
For the slur. So, and a slur that I probably used in my life at one point, mind you.
Probably.
And
we used.
The whole hockey
thing.
I mean, it wasn't just hockey. It was
I said probably because then I'm not asking what the slur was. I said probably.
Oh, yeah, I got you.
Because I didn't know the slur. So probably, Tim. I know I have. But, it's crazy how it's gotten to the point today. You can't say anything, offend everybody, blah, blah, blah. That's a whole different thing. You're out of hockey now. You're still a young kid, 31 years old. I retired at 34, and it was tough. I had a tough time. What are you doing now? I know you spend a lot of time with your family. You keep them busy. But are you looking at that second career at some point? I know you want to stay healthy. You want to, make sure your head's in a good place. But you're thinking down the road. At one point, you're thinking of going to college. And okay, where's my life going to go? It goes to hockey. And here you are now. Hockey's over. Do you have any aspirations of staying in hockey in some capacity, or doing something else?
I do. I mean, hockey's majority of what I know. There's a hockey academy here in Belleville that I work at a few times a week where I skate kids. I train them in the gym. And then I have, random people message me can you do a private with my kid? Because I played the game and I wasn't a superstar, so I had to learn the game a different way because my skills weren't, the caliber of the superstars. So I use my work ethic, I use my hockey sense and the skill sets I had. So now I'm just trying to help, because kids nowadays have so much skill, but their hockey sense is pretty lacking. So I'm just trying to help teach and mold kids to get their best potential out of them. And if it works for them, if they get successful and they go play off in the NHL, great for them. I didn't have that opportunity, someone to help. The only one who helped me out when I was younger was my old man. And, he was a beauty. He was hard on us.
He hated the Canadians. And he hated the Canadians.
So
but you're not in Chicago, though. You're not in Chicago, though, right?
No, I'm in Belleville, Ontario.
When you were saying all that stuff, I was like, I'm with you on all of it. And then I'm like, fucking, what are you in Chicago for? I hate the mayor. I hate, you know what I mean? When you're saying all that, but no, I'm glad you're not.
No, once things happened there, I once I was done playing, I was like, I'm going to take my kids home to a small town Canadian city and let them grow up the way I did, a little bit of freedom, space to run around and be close to family and friends.
That's cool. I was in Belleville about a month ago. I went to an autograph thing at one of the stores there in the mall. About a month ago I went. But I actually played with a guy, Rick Maher.
Yeah, I know Rick Maher. I know him well. He's friends with my old man.
Yeah, my first year. Well, I played against him in college, and then he went off to pro, and then we played together in Halifax when we were in the American League. My first year. That's funny.
He used to have a golf tournament here, actually. The Rick Maher Classic. Yeah, I've been to it a few times.
Yeah, Ricky boy. Yeah, Donut. That was his nickname because he always had that donut around his waist. They called him Donut.
Little muffin top.
Call him Donut. Next time you see him, call him Donut.
Swallowed a turtle.
Yeah, swallowed a turtle. Geez, great conversation here we're having with you. Thank you for your time. It's just so awesome.
Yeah, we're halfway through.
Yeah, fuck off. Hey, honestly, we had Lemaire on. Lemaire doesn't do any of these. He was on. We had to fucking kick him off.
He wouldn't stop talking.
He went for 2 hours and 40 minutes. He fucking just kept going. I'm like, well, okay.
His
we
wife
just went with it, right, Tim?
Listen to him at home, I guess. He needed to get some stuff out.
He was good. Yeah. He was good. And you've been great with your time, no question. A couple of things. When you look at your former teammate, Jonathan Toews, and what he's gone through, God, it must be painful. Do you stay in touch with him?
I went down to his last
obviously
game.
Going through a difficult time.
Yeah, I think
right.
He's got to be, but he's got to reach out to teammates who've been through the same thing. I mean, I only played 7 years there, but he's played his whole career there, so it's tough for him to see himself playing somewhere else. But I he still loves the game. Still in pretty good shape. He's still. I mean, he might not be
his health. How's his health though? He went through something.
Yeah,
right. Health wise,
I think
will he be able to play again?
Oh yeah, I think I think he'll play next year somewhere else though. I think it just took a while to figure out what was going on with him. I think they got it down now and they've kind of figured it out. So I think he's staying on top of it. I think,
was it something with the vaccine or no? Or COVID?
He got COVID before the bubble and then went into the bubble. And I just remember him telling us how exhausted he was and he wasn't sleeping. Yeah. He had no appetite. So he wasn't eating. And it just kind of, I don't know. He figured it out and then it came back again. And then it never really went away. It was always just kind of there. It was just like maintaining it just well enough so he could play. And I think he needed that year to take off. And mentally and physically probably just exhausting what he went through. And I mean, it ain't easy, right? He was a leader when he was 19 years old, and a lot of pressure, a lot of good teams, a lot of hockey. So I think his health took a big hit, and I think it took him some time, but I think he'll be back next year ready to go.
It'll be weird to see him in another uniform. That's one of those guys you'd be like, holy fuck, really?
Well, I'm excited for him. He gets to go somewhere, a lot less pressure, a lot less responsibility, and hopefully just play the
expectations,
play the game and have fun,
Cool.
Yeah, his last game was, that was like kind of the end of all of it, right?
Yeah.
Like, being from Chicago, you guys
there's no one else
turned
left.
the city around. You guys turned the city around. I mean, the youth hockey in Chicago it's crazy how big it is. And that's because of the Blackhawks. So to see his last game was kind of sad because it was like the end of that was the end, right? That was the final.
He's the last one to go, but the organization did an amazing job at turning youth hockey into something special there. So I think you're going to see some good hockey players come out of Chicago.
Yeah, I mean, like myself.
That's awesome. Like Stapes.
Could have just said me.
Team Russia, Russian gas, baby.
Russian gas.
Oh,
Andrew,
yeah.
Listen, I want to thank you for your time, and I really hope for you, you stay healthy and everything's good with your head moving forward. That you don't, suffer any long-term effects from, the career you had. It's a shame you're still not playing the game, and it's also a blessing that you have your health now. You have healthy kids, your wife, you got a family, and that's a good place to focus now while you're making that transition. I want to wish you nothing but the best moving forward. And
thank you.
I thank you for joining us. I mean that from the bottom of my heart.
I appreciate it. I want to say one thing too. Like everything I went through, health-wise, concussion-wise, all that, I don't have any regrets with it either. I was true to myself. I played hard. I was me, I wasn't somebody else. So I have zero regrets with it.
I love that. And fuck Greg Patterson.
I thought you were going to be like, hey, I just want to say one more thing. Everything I said, I lied. It just got off. That would have been awesome.
Oh, Tim. So listen, and if you ever get this way, you got my number. You ever get to Montreal.
All right, now, because I'll be there. I'm still really good buddies with Paulie B, and he still lives there, so.
Cool. Well, if you get this way, maybe we'll grab dinner one night.
$400 a month, Shazzy. Top bunk. He'll give you the top bunk. $400 a month.
I'm in. I love Medusa.
Yeah, we'll go one night. You come to town, all right?
All right, sounds good.
Hey, everyone. Thanks for listening to the Raw Knuckles podcast. Don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe.